Hello guys, Tony from Zero Fear English here, and today I'm going to show you 5 people who have learned English to a native-like level. Because I know some of you are thinking, Tony, you've never had to learn English, so you don't know how we feel. And I know that. So that's why I'm going to show you people who have done it. I am a language learner, so I do understand the challenges of language learning. So these 5 clips I'm going to show you all prove that comprehensible input will help take your English to the next level and solve typical problems that English learners or language learners have when trying to improve their language skills. These are problems such as understanding the language but not being able to speak, not being able to understand people when they speak fast, not being able to use certain grammar structures, and problems like this. And also, I know that comprehensible input helps because it really helped me with my Spanish. And if you want to hear my Spanish, I recommend that you subscribe to this channel because I plan to make a video in Spanish in the future. And also, subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and leaving a comment below helps with the YouTube algorithm push this video to other people that it might help. And with that, it's time to begin and learn about the power of comprehensible input and listening. And before we begin, here is a clip that I find particularly motivating.
No! Hey! Come on! Where did you learn our language? I listened.
And now, let's begin with the first video. So this first video comes from Japan, and it's 2 young boys who speak English very, very well. Their pronunciation is also very, very good. However, I know some of you will be thinking, but they're kids, so that's why they speak well. Probably they've been speaking English and watching English and reading English their whole lives. But if you look at the statistics, Japan statistically has quite a low level of English proficiency. So this is very impressive coming from people who grew up in Japan and with a Japanese family. So let's watch the clip and tell me what you think about their English.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sota.
And I'm Yuta.
I'm 13 years old and I'm in the 2nd grade of middle school.
And I'm 12 years old and I'm in the 6th grade of elementary school.
We were born and raised in Japan and we've never been abroad.
How did you learn English?
Well, we've been listening to and reading English books since we were really young and watching a lot of English television, listening to the English radio, music, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's all English.
Yeah, I think the important thing is to bring the language that you want to learn into your daily life.
Watching TV with the language you want to speak, doing
subtitles,
games with it.
having fun with the language you want to speak. That's important because the moment you open your textbook and start learning, it gets boring. So start from television, movies, games,
Whatever entertains you.
Yeah, that's the key to learning a new language.
So quite impressive, right? And as they mentioned, it's important to do things that you enjoy doing in the language. And for them, they mentioned that the moment you use a textbook, it gets quite boring. And of course, as I've mentioned in the past, the best method is one that you can do every day. And if you can study using a textbook every day, then continue doing that. But for a lot of us, it does get boring very quickly. Let's move on to the next clip, which shows a rapper from Indonesia. His name is Rich Brian, and he talks about how he learned English from YouTube and watching things that were useful to him, such as Rubik's Cube tutorials. Now, if you don't know what that is, a Rubik's Cube is the colored block, the colored square, where you have to make all the colors match on each side, right? It's known for being quite difficult, And he did things like that, and also talks about how he learned his English pronunciation through rap music. So let's watch this video and let's see what you think.
Actually, we're talking where we're from. Let's kick it to, your upbringing, Indonesia.
Yes.
It's been well documented, well talked about. You learned to really speak English through YouTube.
Yeah.
It's so funny because now you're putting up these crazy numbers on YouTube.
Right.
But did you learn through music?
So basically, it started with me learning from watching videos of. So I used to play the Rubik's Cube, and I used to watch a lot of tutorials on how to play the Rubik's Cube, and so that all the tutorials were in English, so that kind of got me used to that. And then at one point, I was thinking about something, and then I realized that the voice that was in my head, I was thinking in English, basically. I realized, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I want to keep learning it.
So once again, another interesting story from another English learner. And yes, he doesn't mention anything about studying in school or grammar or anything like that, but we can assume that maybe he did have some basics learned in the language. But yeah, that's another story for you. Moving on to the third clip, we have RM from the Korean pop band BTS. I'm sure some of you will have heard of them. And he talks about how he learned English watching the TV show Friends. Now, he does mention the use of subtitles in the beginning. I think, if I remember correctly, he says that he used Korean subtitles first, and then English subtitles the second time he watched the series, and then eventually just completely removed them. And his English pronunciation is good. There is a slight mispronunciation on the word bot. I think he says it like bout, but it's still completely comprehensible, and I'm sure he can refine his pronunciation as he goes on. But still very, very good level, and he speaks overall a very comfortable sounding English. So let's watch that clip now.
RM, you speak English, right?
Yes.
So pretty well. You taught yourself English?
Yes, I taught myself English.
How did you teach yourself English?
Actually, my English teacher was the sitcom Friends.
Oh, you
Yes,
watched
a legend.
Friends?
Yes.
So was it mainly just phrases then, or you just learned everything?
I think, back in the days, like when I was like 15, like 14,
Yeah.
it was quite like a syndrome for all the Korean parents to make their kids watch the Friends.
Really?
So yeah, I thought I was kind of like a victim at that time, but but right now I'm the lucky one.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like thanks to my mother, she bought all the seasons for DVDs. It got 10 DVDs, right?
Right.
She bought me, and so firstly I watched with the Korean subtitle, and then next time I watched with the English subtitle, and then I just removed it.
That's very impressive, and Friends would be very happy that you learned.
So what's your thoughts on that one? Are you going to try and watch Friends and see if it helps you? Maybe you can watch any other sitcom that you enjoy. Anything like that will help you because you're seeing the language used in real situations, and it's entertaining, and it's more interesting than studying a textbook. And it's also sustainable, right? You can do this a lot more than reading a textbook, for example. Okay, so the next clip comes from a channel called LukeLearnsSpanish. On his channel, he is studying Spanish. However, he interviewed another YouTuber, Pablo Roman, who has a channel called Dreaming Spanish. And Dreaming Spanish's goal is to teach people Spanish using comprehensible input, and that's the same resource that Luke uses to learn Spanish. If you want to see his Spanish, you can check out his channel. So in this clip, you'll hear Pablo say that he just did things that he enjoyed and eventually was able to use some English grammar that he didn't even learn. And that's an interesting thing to achieve when you're learning a language. So let's watch the clip and let's see what you think.
So I guess the first foreign language that I actually learned to a good level was English. And after learning traditionally in school, when it got time to travel to go live in another country, I didn't know about comprehensible input, but I just started watching TV shows, movies, cartoons in English because it was just the fun and easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But then I went to live in another country. I went to study in Finland, and I realized that I knew more English than I thought, and I could put sentences together, which I didn't know why I was putting them together like that, but they worked, and I realized I was using grammar that I had never learned in school. So I realized that you could at least improve at a language without really having to study it.
And there you go. So these two guys talk about comprehensible input and how it really helped with their language studies. And even in Pablo's methodology, he says that you can learn languages from zero with only comprehensible input. And he has done the studying and the research on this more than people like me have, for example. I'm talking through experience and other people's experiences. So, it's possible if you want to learn a new language from zero with only comprehensible input. But as I mentioned in the beginning, some people like to first develop a foundation or understand some basics first, which is what the next person talks about on his channel. His channel is primarily in Spanish, and he helps English learners learn English, but he talks about it in Spanish and someone who has experienced the journey, and he is a strong believer in comprehensible input. So let's have a look at this video where he talks about how he did study some basics in school, the typical school curriculum that you'll learn. And as you know, most of us study a second language in school, but we don't leave school speaking a second language. So we know that doesn't take you to an intermediate or advanced level of the language. And from there, he started playing video games and watching anime and things like that to eventually achieve the level of English that he has. So let's watch the clip.
So I actually never studied. I never did anything really apart from the lessons at school, which are like awful in Mexico, by the way. I don't know, there was this sort of blockade in my head of, all right, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to do it, whatever. I was like, I can't be bothered with English. I'll just power through it and play the game. And eventually I just knew the language. That was amazing. Like I couldn't understand anything spoken because at the time, games were not voice acted or anything. It was just reading all the time, right? So I could read very easily. I don't know, it's just hard to explain, but it's all about comprehensible input, which is what I always talk about in this channel. And so that's how I learned when I was little. Then World of Warcraft came out in about, I think it was 2004, 2005. I played it 2005, 2006-ish, sort of. And I started playing World of Warcraft. And I was playing that game hardcore. I think it was Ventrilo at the time. It was like, for you all, all you younglings, this is like a Discord for boomers. I never actually talked. I was just listening all the time, which was amazing, right? That's how I learned to talk, by listening and receiving all this input. So after playing for so long, I just acquired the language. I could actually understand people talking all the time on the server. I could read everything, and I surprisingly could speak as well. I just had never tried. But yeah, that's how I learned. That's how I learned English. Like, and obviously after that, I learned all about grammar in English and everything. But the big thing was definitely video games, anime, which at the time, again, there were no subs in Spanish. Mostly, it was mostly English. So I had to learn English to be able to watch anime. And I also learned through World of Warcraft. That was a big one, I think.
And there was the final clip with Mr. Salas, one of my favorite channels on YouTube for my own Spanish comprehensible input. And that's the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching until now. I hope these people inspire you and motivate you and keep you going on your English learning journey or language learning journey, whatever you're learning. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, or leave a comment below telling me what you're going to listen to next, what you're going to watch next, or what you're going to read next. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video and have a nice day. Bye for now.